Mr. Blaze. This is gonna be.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? I said,
See?
how are you doing? All right, cool. I'm happy to be here too.
All
Let's
right.
get into it.
So, you make records.
I've made a few.
Yes, some of them worked out pretty good for you.
Some of them did, some of them didn't, but
Yeah,
some of them
that's
did.
nice.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling. All right, so you know who Just Blaze is. He makes really amazing tracks with all sorts of people, amongst whom Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, and I mean, you know who he is. Let's just talk about stuff that's new and interesting.
Yes.
Let's talk about this track. So, Justice brought one of his Logic sessions. It's the actual session from the actual record that was tracked at Universal Audio Studios.
Yes, it was.
How did that happen?
Our good friend Erica, aka Vanna White, who escorted me to the stage.
Yes.
I've known her for many years. And somehow we came. I don't remember how we came in contact with each other, but she found out that I used UAD products and wanted to talk to me about it further. And we've been in touch and became friends ever since. And she had this idea to put something together with a group that we all liked, and Phony People was a great choice.
Yes.
So they're local, they're oh, thank you so much. We have a bunch of people in common. I love their work. They obviously have a good respect for me, and we just got in the studio and made some magic happen.
All right, that sounds good. So what I propose we do is first we take a listen to the magic.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll look at the magic.
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. So I'm just gonna play an extract of the song. Actually, you know what? Let's play it with where the end is awesome. All right, let's do that.
So let's give them a little bit of the beginning and a little bit
of the end. Let's do that.
And that's why I love the moon. Every night is there for you. It's constant. All like these human beings who lie about what it seems to be. You think the earth is where you stand. You're in the palm of someone's hand. And that's why I love the moon. 'Cause it's always there for me. Every night about my window. And that's why I love the moon. 'Cause it's always there for me. Every single night I look outside, and it's right there for me and my mind, and that's why I love the moon, yeah. Because people can consume my love in the wrong way.
Let's go to the magic part.
So that's the core of the record.
Here's the magic part.
And that's why we love, and that's why we love the moon, and that's why we love, and that's why we love the moon. 'Cause it's always there for us, and that's why we love the moon, and we always trust, and that's why we love the moon. Don't forget about the sun, and that's why we love the moon. And we looking up above, yeah, and that's why we love the moon. And that's why we love the moon. And that's why we love the moon. Why we love the
Dope. I'm a sucker for those modulations at the end there. It reminds me, don't you worry about a thing, Stevie. You know that track?
That's a good comparison. Definitely a good comparison.
All right, so let me quit Pro Tools, which we use to play the videos, and switch to Logic, and let's look a little bit at what you did.
Freaky Fresh. Fresh, what up?
Yes. All right. So I think it would be interesting. We did this before, so I know the questions I'm going to ask. Let's talk about what a producer does.
So a producer's job ultimately is to deliver a finished product. It's not necessarily about making a beat. It's not necessarily about writing a song. It's about putting all the right pieces together in one place, and delivering your vision for what a song should be to the record label and to the artist and what have you. A perfect example, that ending that you guys just heard in that record, they didn't want to use that. To me, that's the climax of the record. They just liked the slow part. And then they just started jamming, and they came up with this fast groove. And I'm like, dude, that's your climax for your show. Like for me, I tend to think about music in terms of performance on stages and performance in our lives in general. One thing that I will say, we touched on this a bit yesterday. So a lot of us as hip hop producers have found our success in the club. Manny Fresh included. Make some noise for Manny Fresh, please. But a lot of times A&Rs and record label executives will steer us to constantly shoot for that. We need to be in the club. We need to be in the club. We need to be in the club. We need to be on the radio. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, me as a fairly regular Joe, I go to the club maybe once a week for 2 or 3 hours, or I might go to the bar for a couple of hours, like once during the week, just to let off some steam. There are 7 days in a week, and I might go to the club for 3 or 4 hours out of those 7 days. There's a couple of hundred other hours in the week. And for me, I like to make music for people's lives, not just while we're in the club. There are so many people who've come up to me and said, you know, when I get up on Saturday morning and I want to clean my house, I play Lord Knows. Or when I'm washing my car, I listen to the Dynasty intro. Or I play Live Your Life and I feel like I'm about to go run a marathon or something like that. There are so many other moments in people's lives that you can make music for. So for me, my job as a producer is to, A, deliver a finished product and a vision, but also to make music for moments in people's lives that will stick with them forever.
You guys got that? All right. Just saying. All right. So that's a good philosophy. Now let's talk about a little bit how your setup is on your mixing rig. So what's your mixing rig right now?
At home, I pretty much have what we have here. I have the older version. You guys haven't given me the new one yet.
It's not my domain, you know, but I know someone who knows someone.
This is the second day that I'm asking for that.
Yeah, well, maybe you're asking the wrong
so at
dude.
home, yeah, at home I had the Apollo Twin and the Octo, as well the UAD Octo. That's pretty much it. You know, I get all my processing from there. I love the converters in it.
Yep.
I had that running out to 2 barefoot monitors and my laptop, and that's pretty much it these days.
Just saying also, right? So Just is making music with a laptop, a Twin and an Octo, and a pair of speakers.
And my ears and my brain.
Yeah, that part.
That helps.
That part you can't buy from Universal Audio. The other part you can.
Yeah. You could buy half of the equation.
Yes.
But seriously, I mean, what you guys have done with this, you've given, I'm spoiled. I came up in the era of analog.
Yep.
Right on the cusp of the conversion from analog to digital. Mm-hmm. So I still have, you know, SSLs, tons of outboard gear, a lot of outboard gear that you guys have emulated.
Yep.
And the great thing about me with UAD was you guys made faithful recreations of the gear that I grew up using. I was very skeptical for a long time.
Me too.
And I remember when I got my first UAD piece, me and my homie, my brother Young Guru, we sat in the studio and took every recreation that you guys had made and put it up against the actual pieces because we had them all.
Yep.
And that's when I became a believer.
My tip over was the AMT plate 140.
Yeah.
I have a 140 at the studio at Flux. I have a 140, and I was like, I said, now the plate plug-in, okay, whatever. So I put it on. I was like, is this mine? Like I'm like looking at the patch bay and like, is this mine? It's amazing.
Right. Yeah, it's really amazing.
So here on your 2-bus, so let's talk about your 2-bus chain.
Yes.
A lot of people are curious about 2-bus chains. You have an SSL quad.
Yes.
So this is the same compressor that is in your SSL 4000.
Exactly the same.
And you compare the two of them.
Yes.
And you feel comfortable with this one.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, as I started to gravitate towards mixing in the box,
Yep.
I would still, even though like I had this 48 channel SSL of my own. I would still mix in the box, but run things through my SSL center section. Because there's just the compression sound that you couldn't get anywhere else until I found this.
And that's the thing. So you use this to shape the record,
Yeah,
right?
for me, it's more about shaping the sound. Like, how many of you have made a great record, a record that you feel really good about, and then you send it to an engineer to actually get the record mixed, and it feels and sounds completely different? We've all been there,
Sometimes I send it to myself and I don't recognize it.
But one of the things that I realized over the years is, especially with technology, or the technology that we have now, we're mixing as we go along now. It used to be you were just tracking and then you were worried about mixing later. Now we're mixing as we go along.
Yep.
So for me, the most important part of the process is the shaping of the record. And for me, I have a pretty standard two bus or mix bus chain that allows me to shape the record. For me, it's more about, I fell in love with this record the way it was. I don't want to take all the faders back down to 0 and then try to rebuild it. I'd rather take what I love about the record and take that and just shape it. And that's what my mix bus is all about.
So the next thing is not an emulation of anything. It's Dirk's Brainworks Stereo MS
Amazing EQ, yes.
Very nice. So what do you use this for?
For me, this is all about subtle changes. Again, it's all about shaping the record. Excuse me. I don't like to make drastic. Like if the record felt good the way it was,
Yep.
then all we're trying to do now is just shape it to make sure that it matches up to other songs. You don't want to be that guy who puts out a record that sounds good but is 10 dB lower, or something's weird, and and the DJ can't play my record after the record he was just playing. So for me, it's all about shaping. And the Brainworks EQ is really great at just being able to grab really small frequencies and or grabbing certain frequencies rather, and just boosting them or turning them down in small increments.
If you notice, Mr. Blaze's settings right here are 0.9 dB, 0.6 dB, 1 dB, 0.3 dB. It's very subtle, all right? It's not like manly. It's like very nice. And
if you have to take your EQ and like crank 10 dB on a frequency range, you're doing something wrong. You should probably just go and mix your record again.
Yeah. Good point. And then you have this guy.
The tape machine.
It's very good.
Yes. So one of the other things that I talked about a few minutes ago was I came up in that area, or that era, where it was the cusp of analog going to digital.
Yep.
But we were still, even if we were mixed or we were working in Pro Tools, we were still recording or bouncing our mixes to 2-inch or to half-inch.
Yep.
Because there was a certain tape saturation that you didn't get from going to a DAT tape or recording it to a CD.
Yep.
So for me, the great thing about this plugin is I get the saturation and the natural compression that comes from going to tape.
It makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference, and it's huge yet subtle at the same time. But when you're in the right environment, you can actually hear the difference. Like, you can hit the tape a bit harder.
Yep.
And you get that compression and that natural bit of oomph that comes on the bottom end that you're not going to get from just recording to a DAT.
No. Digital is wonderful, by the way. I hear a lot of people who say that digital is not happening. That's not true. Digital is awesome. Digital is a mirror. It gives you back what you put in. And so some people just don't like to look at themselves in the mirror in the morning, which I understand. So some people put makeup on. Yes.
Very true.
But it's all a mirror. So it is what it is, which is beautiful. Then you have the tools like the UAD plugins to put the makeup on so you can make it do what you want to do.
Exactly.
In the past, correct me if I'm wrong, I never used tape.
Right.
I came after tape. But in the past, if you wanted something to be super, super, super clean, it was a lot of work.
Right.
Now you have that by default, and then you can make it dirty without doing a lot of work.
Right, and it's not just the dirt is a big part of it, especially with my sound. It's not necessarily dirt, but grit.
Yeah.
Which, if that makes sense, there's a certain grit that you get from recording to tape. It's a sound that I grew up with, not really even understanding what that sound was until I made the conversion. I'll never forget the first time I mixed a record completely in Pro Tools and did everything in Pro Tools. And I was like, why does it sound so thin?
Yeah.
And we sat there for hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what it was. And I realized we didn't hit tape.
Yep.
So I took that record and got my Studer half-inch and bounced it out of Pro Tools, but cranked the output to hit tape as hard as I could without it distorting. And then I got that sound that I was missing.
Yep.
And this plugin actually really emulates that very well.
Yes, it does, and it gives you different tape formulations. I don't know what your favorite is. Apparently, your favorite is the 456.
Yeah, 450. That's what 456 Ampex.
I'm a sucker for the 250 because it's so insanely slow and it makes everything feel fuzzy. I like it. So that's your two-bus chain. It's very simple.
Yeah, very simple. Again, it's not about reshape. It's not about remaking the record. It's just about shaping the sound of the record.
All right, cool. So now let's look at the vocal sound because that's the number 2 thing after the vocal chain, after the two-bus chain. So you have an LA2, a UAD version of the Oxford, and then, another EQ. You're going to have to explain why anybody would want to do that. And then tape, and then a de-esser.
Okay.
So let's start upper left.
So starting with the Telectronics.
Yep.
For me, sometimes overcompression is the devil. A lot of us, when we first get into the engineering aspect of records, we don't really understand what compression is supposed to be used for.
Yep.
And we end up overusing it. And one of the things that I realized about the LA2A was from having the hardware and using it for many years, after I made a little bit of money and I was able to buy one, an actual physical one, there are very little controls on it.
Yep.
As long as you have a well-recorded vocal, you can get a lot of control with using a lot of control with using a lot less.
Yep.
There's only 2 controls on this thing.
Yes. It's
All I needed to do was have something that was going to keep the vocals in pocket and in the frequency range that I wanted without having them jump out. From there, because of the room that this vocal was recorded in, I noticed there was a little bit of a little bit too much low end on the vocal. I was hearing too much of the room itself. So that's when we brought the Oxford in, because the Oxford has the filters.
Yep.
They have a great low end filter, so I used that to take out a little bit of the low end. What I then noticed was that when I took out the low end, I lost a little bit of the life of the vocal. So I used the Neve to boost that a little bit.
You see how he's doing? He's using different tools for different purposes, right? He was not going to remove the low end with the Neve because the Oxford is very clean to do that. And then the Neve gives him the color, right?
Right. So I used the Neve to color it, give it a little bit more of the high end and mid range back. Then I used the tape plug-in just to give it a little bit more warmth overall. But one of the things that I do, and I know this about myself, is I tend to mix very high end. Probably because I've been on stages for the past 20 years with music blasting in my ears, so I'm probably like 20% deaf. But I know that about myself, and I admit it openly. I know that my high end. Oh, Heath, what up? I know that my ear sometimes loses a little bit of the high end. Knowing that, I know that I have to use a de-esser to get rid of a lot of the that comes about from me mixing a little bit too high end.
Cool. So for those of you who are wondering why just use the oxide tape or what the difference is between the oxide tape and the studio tape, the oxide tape is a plugin that UA came up with that gives you most of the benefits of the A800 without killing your DSP. So for example, if you're on the road with a twin and maybe you only have a duo and then you want to track through tape, which you can. You can now track through tape in real time. If you use an oxide, you'll be able to do that and not use all the DSP. So it's a DSP efficient and rationalized version of their tape technology.
Yeah, it takes up much less DSP on the
and that's very useful. If you're on the road, the last thing you want is not enough DSP. That is hell. So they make plugins that let you get the tone without having to worry about the DSP, which is great. Cool. So let's see. We've done this, and I think this is actually we have a giveaway in 5 minutes, so it's going to be time.
How do I put my bid in? I need to
do everything you want to do.
I want to be part of the giveaway. Can I enter the contest? Because I still don't have this.
I know someone who knows someone. All right, so what I propose we do is I quit out of here and we watch that whole song in one pass without cutting it. Is that cool? All right, and then...
I will say one thing.
Go ahead.
This is something we touched on yesterday as well. It's great that we have all these tools. It's great that we have all these plugins and all this technology at our disposal. Don't let the plugins dictate the record. At the end of the day, you have to have a good record. If your record is no good, the plugins aren't going to hide that. Make sure that you have a good record that you really believe in. and then just use these things as tools to shape and make your record sound better, ultimately.
What he said.
And that's why I love the moon. Every night is there for you. It's constant. All like these human beings who lie about what it seems to be. You think the earth is where you stand, but you're in the palm of someone's hand. And that's why I love the moon, 'cause it's always there for me. Every night about my window. And that's why I love the moon, 'cause it's always there for me. Every single night I look outside, and it's right there for me and my mind. And that's why I love the moon, yeah. Because people can consume my love in the wrong way, so I send it up. And I real love so hard to find. Just when you think you found it, the illusions in your eyes, it blinds. So be careful where you look for love. Just be careful where you look for love. Real love so hard to find. Just when you think you found it, the illusions in your eyes, it blinds us all. So be careful where you look for love. Oh, just be careful where you look for love. There is to the moon, there is to the stars, and then there is to Saturn, and there is to Mars. Oh, oh, oh.
This is Just Blaze's work. Thank you so much.
And that's why I love the moon.
One thing we didn't talk about,
What is that?
the Little Labs plugin you guys have.
Oh, yeah.
The-
The phase alignment thing?
The bass thing, the voice
Oh,
of God. thing,
voice of God.
Yeah. So I actually bought the hardware version of that before there was a plugin.
Yes.
So if you notice, I don't know how many of you guys picked it up. There's a point about a minute and a half into the song where all of a sudden the sub bass comes to life.
Yep.
And thanks to this guy, Manny Fresh, everybody wants their 808s or their basses to sound like 808s.
Yeah.
That plugin is amazing at doing that.
Yep.
You find the right frequency, you tweak it to the right place,
Yep.
and all of a sudden your regular slap bass
Yep.
sounds like your 808 bass. And that's actually how we got all the sub from that
There you
record.
go. So what Just is talking about is the UAD Little Lab Voice of God, also known as VOG. Voice of God. It's an amazing plugin, and it goes unnoticed because it's in a list of. There's so many plugins, and it's hard to choose which plugin to get. That's a great one to get.
Yeah, Voice of God. Anybody who's trying to pull low end or a lot of sub out of a regular analog bass, Voice of God. Check that out. Seriously,
It's fantastic.
you'll get that Manny Fresh bass.
There you go. Just Blaze, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Later on.